Hello there, a very warm welcome to the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Smart 24 TV, where we drive your business, and my name is Anthony Sebali. Now, of course, it's a Friday, and we are bringing you the final weekdays tradings, and of course, we are supported by Altex East Africa, which is your #1 private stock exchange. With Altex East Africa, we are saying more money with no hassle. All you need now is to simply grab your phone and dial *292# to experience Altex East Africa. Now, Altex gives you treasury bonds on the secondary market where you can buy or sell at prices as low as 15,000 shillings. These bonds are in Kenya, in Uganda, and Tanzania. So you choose the maturity you would want there in the SSD code, *292#, and then you definitely get to put the amount you would want to deposit, and that is of course carried from your mobile wallet, and get to start moving. With Altex East Africa, we say you can do something new. Markets open at 8:15 and close at 3 p.m. And there you have it, my friend. That's it. Of course, we are now getting to look into the trades of what has been one of the biggest weeks in the Ugandan market, especially this year, 2023, which has been quite volatile for the capital markets here in Uganda. Now, on Thursday, in aggregate, of course, we are looking at yesterday's trades, as today's trade is still carrying on since 9 a.m. and it will be closing at 1 p.m. But as per trading data from the Uganda Securities Exchange, on Thursday, we had at least in aggregate 3 listings that participated in trading in a day that ended with 4 gainers and 2 losers. Definitely, this was a market rally that saw the all-share index rise by close to at least 2.45 points, which was at least over 0.22% rise in the number of points on the all-share index. Remember, the all-share index tracks the aggregate performance of all the listings, the 18 listings on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Now, as per the trades on Thursday, Jubilee Holdings Limited led the gainers with an 8.72% appreciation in price, up to a closing price of 4,680.38 Ugandan shillings per share. Following the Jubilee Holdings stock was Equity Bank Limited with a gain of 1.56%, and Nation Media Group with a gain of 0.23%, whereas the East African Breweries Limited stock closed with a 0.04% higher price. Now, at the end of the day as well, Centum Investments and Kenya Airways were the stocks that lost value, with Centum Investments losing at a 3.1% margin and the Kenya Airways stock losing at a 0.1% that there on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Definitely, Kenya Airways has been in the media this whole week, of course, following the release of their financial year 2022 audited reports that indicated the company's worst losses ever on the so far since the airline started actually operations. The airline lost over 391 billion Kenyan shillings there last year, which was almost double what the company lost in 2021. And there's been a lot of questions on the investor side whether the company will be able to rejuvenate and get moving. However, of course, the government of Kenya has been able to back up some of the debt that the company is currently struggling with. But for how long will this happen, and will it be sustainable? We watch and of course wait for what is yet to be unveiled. Now, on the gainers, rather moving side, the movers were led by Stanbic Bank Uganda. Stanbic Bank Uganda traded the biggest volume for the day at over 947,700 shares that were recorded. Now, Stanbic Bank Uganda also came out this week and during, of course, in a meeting where the stakeholders in the company actually unveiled the fiscal year 2022 audited financial results. It indicated that the company made almost a profit of 366 billion, which is much higher than that in 2021 and 2020, as of course we're going to see in a detailed report later. But on top of that, the company was able to move the Ugandan market with the trading of over 947,000 shares. Currently, Stanbic Bank Uganda was not only the top mover for the day, it is still the company with the biggest number of shares traded in the last one quarter of 2023. Remember, today is the last day of March, the 31st of March, and it is, of course, marking the end of the financial year for most of the companies, including Cipla, including Stanbic, and so many others. But at the moment, Stanbic Bank Uganda holds a stock of 1.07 trillion Ugandan shillings, and this represents close to 5.39%, meaning the company has a lot of influence when it comes to trades on the Uganda Securities Exchange. And when you look at their shares outstanding, they have 51.2 billion shares that are out there floating on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Their pricing has been quite stable in the year 2023. Mainly on average, they have been trading at 21.0 shillings. And when you look at the graphical representation, they just have a few peaks here and there in the month of March and in the month of February, where they went a little bit higher to over 22.5 and to 23 shillings this year. But on most cases, the line still stands at 21 shillings, meaning it is still something that the company is maintaining the price stability on the stock exchange. At the moment, I said, of course, it's the number one most traded on stock. Looks like the favorite of most investors currently because, of course, of affordability, but also because the company is a profitable entity, and this makes it a choice for many investors that would want a dividend issuance, especially for people who are longer-term investors that are not looking at capital gains from maybe trading when the prices are going up or coming down. It is those investors that are looking for a passive income that definitely are more interested in stocks like Stanbic Bank Uganda. Now, in the last 3 months, they've had a record over 165 million shares that has been traded. And this is valued at 3.76 billion Ugandan shillings on the market so far, with an average of 2.61 million shares traded per session. That's the highest average that we have seen so far on the Uganda Stock Exchange. Now let's have a look at what seems to be some of the snippets into the financial results for 2022 on Stanbic Bank Uganda. Now, Stanbic Bank Uganda has reported a 33% growth in profit after tax, resulting from the diversification of its revenue systems. Now, in details contained in their bank's financial statements, as per what was released this week, Stanbic Bank indicated that the profits after tax grew to over 366 billion during the fiscal year 2022. Now, they have put this growth to the deliberate move to diversify their revenue streams arising from lending to various sectors of the economy in a period which seemed to be very devastating for businesses during the COVID-19 and Ebola pandemics. Now, Stanbic Bank Uganda remains Uganda's biggest bank as well by assets that has seen the profit margin grow, notwithstanding, of course, an unstable environment characterized by high commodity prices and inflation and COVID-19 related effects. Now, for instance, when you look at the Stanbic Bank's report, they reported that a profit of 275 billion was registered in 2021, and in 2020 it was 243 billion, meaning they are on a progressive curve when you look at their profit margins. During the period ended 2022 as well, the customer deposits grew by over 6.8% to 6.1 trillion from about 5.7 trillion the previous year, while loans and advances rose to 4.1 trillion shillings and that is from 3.7 trillion shillings the year before. Assets also grew by 3.9% to 9 trillion Ugandan shillings. However, the bank wrote off at least 101.1 billion, which was an increase from 63.2 billion, while the operating costs increased by 13 billion, which was a 3% increase to over 495 billion, largely due to inflation. Stanbic Bank Uganda also reported that the asset quality remained sound, with the ratio of the non-performing loans to gross loans reducing to over 2.9%, while provisioning for bad and doubtful debts reduced to about 59.2 billion from 70.4 billion. Now, while presenting this last week, Mrs. Juko Ann, who is the Stanbic Bank Chief Executive Officer, said the bank had exhibited its purpose of driving Uganda's growth that directly and indirectly benefited millions of Ugandans. That's, of course, reports coming in from Stanbic Bank Uganda. Now, of course, we await the dividend that will be decided upon by the board of directors, and of course will be subject to the approval of the shareholders later on in their annual general meeting of shares that were traded. Bank of Baroda also traded 62,400 shares. MTN Uganda traded at least 23,000 shillings, rather 23,000 shares on the Uganda Securities Exchange market. Now, Bank of Baroda, remember, is actually awaiting the approval of shareholders to get some few bonus shares during their extraordinary annual general meeting. They were able to actually get that passed. So they'll be issuing more shares soon, and we'll definitely let you know when that happens and what that means to you as an investor. Now, regarding the performance of the USE local index, the local company index, which tracks the aggregate performance of the local stocks, it also maintained its value at 266.46 points. Now, the data had a slight decline in the volumes, comparing it with Tuesday and Monday, but also Wednesday. Comparing it with Wednesday, it was much better in terms of participation. Moving on, we have trading data from Nairobi Securities Exchange, as well as we of course get into the earnings season as well in the Nairobi markets, which are the busiest and biggest markets in the East African region. In aggregate, at least 49 NSE listed equities participated in trading on Thursday and closed the day with 30 gainers and over 10 losers on the market. Kakuzi came out with a gain of at least 10.0%, which was the biggest gain, closing at 264 Kenyan shillings per share. The Unga Group also had a 9.41% added to their value, and the Sanlam Group there in Kenya added over 7.32%, whereas Liberty Kenya Holdings added 7.14%. And those were the biggest gainers on the Nairobi Securities Exchange, amongst the 30 gainers that also traded. Now, looking at the Total Kenya stock, Total Kenya closed with the biggest loss of at least 7.27%, down by to a 20.40 Kenyan shillings per share. And Standard Group had a 6.37%, and Car and General Kenya at least lost 4.75%, and Britam Holdings 3.59%. And those were some of the movers there on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. But Safaricom had the highest volume still on the day, at least 15.2 million shares that were recorded, and followed by KCB Group with at least over 1.63 million. Remember, this year KCB Group will be registering the lowest dividend, and this was after a decline in the dividend that they were going to issue, and a decline in the net interest income that they registered in the year 2022. Of course, this was due to their acquisition of the Trust Bank of Congo, Trust Merchant Bank in Congo, where now they have a little bit of stake there in the Democratic Republic of Congo. But definitely the dividends will be issued, and we'll give you all the details as they unfold. The NSE all-share index unfortunately dropped a few points, 0.74, down to 111.74 points on Thursday as well. Well, moving ahead to the international markets, of course, these are some of the biggest markets here in the world, with the United States stock exchanges like the Nasdaq and the Wall Street in New York. Definitely, we are getting you up to speed to what is happening currently. Of course, US has been through a very turbulent banking crisis that has seen several banks close, but that seems to be changing with a few days now ahead as we move forward towards the end of the first quarter. Actually, today closing the first quarter of 2023. Now, after hours, of course, right now as I speak, it is not open. The markets are not open in the United States because it's a little bit lagging behind. But by the close of the markets on Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon there on the United States market, the Virgin Orbit stock had tanked 47% post the market after the satellite company told their employees that they would cease to operate for the foreseeable future as the satellite launch company was unable to secure funding, according to CNBC. The report cited CEO Dan Hart, who broke the news to all hands meeting in Thursday meetings at the Virgin Orbit, and said that the Virgin Orbit will cut about 90% of its workforce. Now that's a huge loss for the company, and definitely could have very devastating effects on the company's stock even much later, with the 47% cut coming in right now as I speak, as the markets were being closed on Thursday. Nikola also announced a $100 million common stock offering at a price of $1.12 per share. The battery and hydrogen powered electric maker stock sank as much as 18% on the news in the after hours as well. Nikola also said that it intends to use its net proceeds from the public offering for the working capital and other general corporate purposes. The shares are down about 35% in the year to date for Nikola as well. Nikola also announced a partnership to expand the use of electric Class 8 heavy truck fleets, and the company said that the recent CFO would retire starting next year. That is their chief financial officer as well. Now, Canoo also announced that it will release their quarterly results and settle its case with Securities and Exchange Commission over the SPSE merger as well. Closing in on the indexes there on the United States right now as I speak, the S&P 500 is at a 0.17% gain in the last 24 hours at a 4,086.75 points closure, and the Dow Jones or the Dow futures are at a 0.12% higher, about $33,000, whereas the Nasdaq futures are at a 13,093 points closing. And that's the trading, my friend, from around the world. Remember to follow us on Twitter at Smart24TV, and also get to our website at www.smart24tv.com for more. And also remember to check out Altex East Africa, your private stock exchange, giving you the biggest and latest on the treasury bond market. With access to your mobile money, you can now be able to trade with Altex. Simply dial *292# to experience the magic at Altex East Africa. With Altex, you can do something new. And that's it, my friend. It's a weekend, and I hope you're going to have a good one. I'll see you again on Monday. Bye for now. Good day.